Hello, everyone. Welcome back. In today's forecast, we're going to be taking a look at the latest 3-day severe weather outlook, as we do have a pretty active stretch of severe weather going on. Um, Over the next few days, we'll be tracking multiple rounds of severe weather, mostly across the Midwest and the Great Lakes. These storms or this storm system will eventually move to the southern plains and central plains. Some of these storms could produce large hail damaging winds and possibly a few tornadoes. It just depends on how storms organize for the tornadoes, but there's pretty much a really high chance for wind and hail. Um, so let's break down what's expected day by day. A slight risk of severe weather is in place from central Iowa into southern Wisconsin, northern Illinois, and parts of Lake Michigan. Now, let's take a look at the storm's timings and where they're going to be at. Storms are expected to develop this evening across Iowa as a weak disturbance in the upper atmosphere moves out of Nebraska. It will be moving east. We can see this disturbance here, which is our trough that's causing the severe weather for today. It's moving east, and it's going to cause these storms to fire up. In central Iowa, they are going to move east-northeast into Illinois. Same time as this trough is going to be moving in, warmer and more humid air will be transported northward in the low-level atmosphere by a strengthening low-level jet. As we can see, we're looking at our dew points or our moisture. The atmosphere will contain steep lapse rates and around 1,500 joules per kilogram of instability. We can see right here where our storms are going to form. It is working with quite a lot of instability. Not really overload like we did see with like the Kankakee tornado. It was working with 3,000 joules, but this still does have some instability to work with. This could mean we will have enough energy to produce strong updrafts. A few storms could briefly become supercells. They will be capable of producing large hail. On our wind threat of sides, it's pretty low. I mean, later tonight, the storms will move into a linear mode, um, which basically means there'll be a long line. But I feel like high wind gusts are kind of unlikely on the severe weather setup. Mostly just large hail. I don't think there's. On Tuesday, the severe weather threat shifts east into the lower Great Lakes region. Our slight risks will include Detroit, Michigan, Cleveland, Ohio, Toledo, Ohio, Buffalo, New York, and Fort Wayne, Illinois. We do have a marginal risk stretching outwards of Chicago, Illinois, Indianapolis, Columbus, Milwaukee, and Kansas City. We do also have a pretty small marginal risk in places like Woodward and Lubbock. A weather system embedded with strong winds west to east, high in the atmosphere, will move across southern Canada and help push the surface low along a frontal boundary through the Great Lakes. This will cause our storms to fire off. We can see our 850 millibar height and wind right here. We can see it's moving northern. Also, we do have our trough up here moving down, so thunderstorms may already be ongoing Tuesday morning along that boundary, and some of those storms could persist through the day. During the afternoon, conditions may become more favorable for stronger storms to develop or intensify. Dew points will be in the upper 50s to lower 60s combined with steep lapse rates. These steep lapse rates will provide instability for thunderstorms. At the same time, strong winds higher in the atmosphere will produce around 40 to 50 knots of wind shear, as we can see right here. That amount of wind shear can help storms organize into clusters and possibly a few rotating supercells. The main severe threats with these storms will be damaging wind gusts and large hail. There's also a conditional tornado threat because the wind profile in the lower atmosphere may allow storms to rotate. While the tornado risk is relatively low, a couple tornadoes cannot be ruled out. If storms remain isolated before merging together, I think there possibly could be a tornado, possibly in Michigan. if these storms do fire off like in the right place. So definitely keep alerts on your phone and ready to go. Later in the evening, storms are expected to organize into lines or clusters, as we can see right here. They will be spreading east, southeast, towards parts of the northeast. Areas from pretty much lower Michigan into western New York, um, and northwest Pennsylvania may see the greatest risk of severe weather, depending on how the atmosphere recovers after the morning storms from yesterday's storms, or which would be today's. Um, Meanwhile, across the southern plains, another dry line setup could allow isolated storms to develop during the late afternoon and evening hours. Any storm that forms could produce hail or locally strong wind gusts, mainly because of this wind shear in place. So, yeah. By Wednesday, the focus shifts to the southern and central plains, where a more widespread severe weather event may develop. A large-scale trough will move east out of the southwest and Great Basin. We can see this right here. It will bring stronger winds into the mid-levels of the atmosphere across the plains. We're looking about 40 to 50, possibly even 60 knots of wind shear in place for the severe weather event. Um, at the same time, a developing surface low will track across the central plains while a dry line remains positioned across parts of the Texas and Oklahoma. During the afternoon, strong daytime heating combined with moisture from the Gulf of Mexico would create an unstable atmosphere along and east of the dry line. If you do not know what a dry line is, we can see it right here. Basically, it is pretty much where the moisture is cut off. You can see it right here where we do have this moisture over here. It is green, and it just pretty much goes to white.